two friends taking pictures of the rising full moon on a summer night.
Two teenage kids doing what teenage kids do.
When a stranger with a gun and a death wish changed everything.
It was violent, it was senseless, and I will never understand it, I will never accept it.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and unfortunately, we're all too familiar with stories about how violence shatters lives. But what we rarely see is how they are rebuilt. In a new podcast, The Letter, we relive tragedy, but only so we can hear the rest of the story. The struggle to reclaim lives, the realities of grief, and the possibilities of forgiveness.
I believe in miracles. Sometimes I thought, there are no miracles. Yeah, there are, and this is a big one.
Follow The Letter at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
So motorcycle motel is what you're going into.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, now I can take all my clients, that I perceive that I have this grandiose idea will fly from across the globe to come ride motorcycles with me in the most, amazing Moab desert. They're going to need a place to stay. All the motorcyclists traveling on I-70, passing through. I'm going to just market and cater to every motorcycle rider on the planet. You need to come to Moab and ride your motorcycle. Adventure bike rider. I had this. I really did come up with.
Doesn't sound like such a bad idea. I have a motorcycle. I'd like to come stay.
It didn't sound like a bad idea. However, I'm not exaggerating. I was gallivanting. I was recklessly covering the Western United States, looking for capital, looking for partners. The old former motocross star Bob Hanna from the 80s, I somehow managed to dig him up and make an appointment with Bob. I was at Bob's house in Boise, Idaho one day. A friend of mine who owns the Cowboy Bar in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I was at his house the next day asking him for money. I mean, that's just 2 out of 20. I was
manic.
I was full-on manic, out of control. I didn't have a business plan. It was just my vision. Here's what I'm going to do. Open your wallet.
How long did this manic period last? It sounds like it lasted for a while.
About 90 days.
Wow.
Really? Is that a long time? I mean, it seems like a long time. But I don't know to be in that kind of
It varies, but that seems like a long time for the reason that you had your manic episode.
Yeah, and I don't really know. I can honestly, truly say I was out of it for 90 days. Other than doing...
Is it hard to remember a lot of the details from that time?
I've got a lot of, interestingly enough, I have dreams about certain pieces of it, and I find, receipts, paperwork, I find so many different things that trigger memories. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But yeah, it was chaotic. I mean, it was the perfect storm of alcohol, drugs, antidepressants, business, money, marriage, divorce, pending divorce, you name it.
Now you're in this manic state. You're still using drugs and alcohol, but you're going into people's homes asking them for money for investments. Did anybody call you out and say, "You don't seem okay to me"?
Not a once at the potential investors meetings. I would really put myself together well. I would schedule them in the mornings. I was sober, and I was able to tell a really, really good story of what I was trying to accomplish.
Well, you've been, a successful businessman. You've been able to, I think I'm gathering, largely based on your energy and personality, you're able to make all these businesses very successful. And people are in a lot of cases, people invest in you, right? If they believe in you.
And his track record.
And his track record, of course. And, I could see how you could come in and tell a good story. But by the afternoon, you were back to drinking and using. Is that right?
Yeah, back to drinking and running wild. Of course, the whole time behind the scene, when unbeknownst to me, my wife left Moab. She's packing up, leaving Moab, moved back up to Salt Lake, and I'm trying to carry on this great dream and show her that I can, go be this superstar businessman. But again, it is all a lie. It truly is all a lie.
What was your goal? To prove her wrong and then have her come back?
I think, yeah, ego, everything, prove everybody wrong. I was being told by my parents, by my in-laws, everybody, don't do this. Don't be jeopardizing your guys' finances. I mean, I had resources through our means of savings and our what we had done financially and equity in homes and this and that and the other. I mean, I was a major threat to ruining everything that we had worked for.
So how does it all come to an end?
Well, thankfully, a DUI, thankfully, several significant legal encounters. I was reckless. I was absolutely reckless. I broke into a home of a friend of mine. I broke into a friend of mine's home. Well, he didn't consider us friends after I broke into his home. And needless to say, I ended up with a felony. And there were just so many things that absolutely unraveled my world. And once it started going down, it went down really, really hard, really, really fast. And I still to this day don't know why my wife is so unbelievably willing to give me a second chance. And she took me back in Salt Lake City. She got me in at uni at the Neuropsychiatric Institute. She got me with the best doctors, the best care, the best help. And my manic phase turned almost on a dime in the middle of June to the worst depression I've experienced tenfold in my life, 100-fold in my life.
Is that normal, Dr. Matt?
Well, oftentimes a manic episode is preceded or followed by a serious depressive episode. And, oftentimes people are sort of predisposed to that, and they may or may not ever experience those real highs and real lows unless stressors cause them. And some people will develop those symptoms regardless, but I think in your case you had a lot of emotional stress, but probably the stress of just stopping your antidepressants and replacing them with a lot of drug and alcohol use, and that stress on your body and the stress on your mind, combined kicked off a manic depressive episode. And I'm not surprised that you crashed into a major depressive episode. Luckily, you were at uni, where I agree. I think our docs and staff up there are as good as anywhere.
Yeah.
So you're in a heavy depressed mode now.
Correct.
And what does that look like?
Well, my wife had moved back to Salt Lake and rented a home, and my sister came out from North Carolina, and she actually babysat me, literally babysat me for almost 60 days, and I'll never be able to thank her enough. She would grab me and drag me out of the house, and she'd make me go on walks with her. We'd go walk the dogs. She'd make me go out and we made a laundry list of all the things that I had just wreaked havoc on legally, financially, and we would pick one thing every day and start chiseling away at it. I mean, you name it. I mean, it was court appointments I had to go to. It was lawyer appointments that I had to go to. It was community service that I had to go to. It was selling our house in Moab I had to go through. It was selling my Moab Motor Tour business in Moab that I had to go through. It was unwinding escrow on the motel without jeopardizing earnest money of a significant amount of earnest money of Nicole and I's. It was just, and I was doing this all unable to actually live in my skin. I was so depressed. It was just a crazy phase. Again, my wife, being the angel that she is, and I just still don't know why, she took it upon herself to study natural remedies for depression, and she came up with the most incredible food choices for me. And I started an entirely plant-based diet. Chicken, interestingly enough, has one of the highest depressant-causing chemicals in it, acnoronic acid.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Food is evil. Food is evil if you have depression.
Wow.
And so I started on an entirely plant-based diet. My exercise progressed from walks with the dogs to jogs to bicycle rides to it just continued to increase thanks to my sister. I joined Alcoholics Anonymous. I immediately took a service role within Alcoholics Anonymous. So now I was accountable. I couldn't believe it. I joined Alcoholics Anonymous, and within a few months of being there, they gave me the key to the building and said, "You're now the new cookie boy, the guy that has to show up and unlock the door every single meeting, make the coffee, and bring the cookies." It blew my mind that they didn't understand that I was so depressed that I didn't want the key, but they made me have it anyways. And so guess what? I showed up. I literally showed up. It's kind of like
coming full circle from the fraternity party planner to now you're the AA cookie planner.
It was...
It sounds like you're a good planner.
Yeah.
So you're showing up, you're opening the door, you're giving them cookies and coffees. And for those who don't know, because I've put my fair share in some AA meetings, the coffee is crucial. If you've got bad coffee, people don't want to come to your meeting. And people will pick meetings just based on their coffee alone.
Really?
Oh, yeah. People will sit around and go, hey, that's a pretty good meeting, but their coffee sucks.
Well, it's just like a fraternity.
Yeah.
I mean, a bunch of crotchety old men sitting around
complaining
that their life and their social life is AA, which is super cool, by the way. And they drink coffee.
Yeah.
We used to drink beer.
Yeah. And so you're doing that, and you're starting to notice a change in yourself. Now, you said when you were doing this 60 days with your sister, who you can't thank enough, you couldn't even be in your own skin. You couldn't look in the mirror. At what point were you able to start looking in the mirror or feeling a little more comfortable in your skin?
Well, I can tell you that with 100% certainty. It was the conclusion of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I went through that, and it was a life-changing experience for me. Everyone has their own experience, but that was a life-changing experience for me. I had a phenomenal sponsor, and I did, by the book, exactly what you're supposed to do, and I truly got given a second chance at life by following the protocol of Alcoholics Anonymous.
So you finished the 12 steps, you're somewhat happy in your own skin, you can look in the mirror, you've been given the gift of second life. But also a part of the 12 steps is giving back.
No question.
And we're going to find out about giving back right after this. You're listening to Project Recovery and Burke Priest Story.
Two friends taking pictures of the rising full moon on a summer night.
Two teenage kids doing what teenage kids do.
When a stranger with a gun and a death wish changed everything.
It was violent, it was senseless, and I will never understand it, I will never accept it.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and unfortunately, we're all too familiar with stories about how violence shatters lives. But what we rarely see is how they are rebuilt. In a new podcast, The Letter, we relive tragedy, but only so we can hear the rest of the story. The struggle to reclaim lives, the realities of grief, and the possibilities of forgiveness.
I believe in miracles. Sometimes I thought, there are no miracles. Yeah, there are, and this is a big one.
Follow The Letter at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Service is an important part of the 12-step. It's an important part for recovery in general. This is kind of my way as service, is giving back, is doing this podcast. But you started something really cool. It's called Adventure Anonymous. What is that, Burke?
Well, Adventures Anonymous is, I'll use the word culmination. It's a culmination of everything that I did prior to this. I'm a year and a half, 2 years sober. I'm working at a friend of mine. A friend of mine just gave me this opportunity to work for him because he knew I had absolutely nothing better to do. So I'm working at a woodworking shop. I'm so down on my luck, just wondering what I'm going to do next. How do I redeem myself? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I'm going through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and all of a sudden I start to become free of
guilt, shame,
anxiety, ego, this, that, the other. I literally started to break out of this shell that I was in, and I was driving. I'll never forget. I was driving up Spanish Fork Canyon, some of my favorite motorcycle riding trails, some of my favorite snowmobile riding areas, some of the most incredible recreating areas, and it came to me. I have to take everything I've done from before. and I have to wrap it into a business, and I have to give it to people for free.
Free. That's Utah's favorite F word.
Is it?
Free.
Okay.
And I said to myself, every person struggling with alcohol deserves a chance at my program. I call it adrenaline adventure therapy. When you are pulling the throttle on a jet ski, on a snowmobile, on a motorcycle, when you're coming down the rope on a massive 100-foot rappel, when you're whitewater rafting, when you're in a side-by-side, all of the items that I offer on my program, when you're doing those things, I will bet you any amount of money that you can't think about your past. You can't think about what you did wrong. You can't think about... And when those neurotransmitters, and I'm going to let the good doctor take that one, but when those things are happening and rebuilding and building new neural pathways, your old ones are closing. Your guilt, shame, bad past is disintegrating. It's breaking down as you're building new neural pathways.
Yeah, 100% agree. In fact, an analogy I use with folks on that a lot is sort of like a path in the forest. And, I remember when my kids were little and we moved here, we used to go hiking on this path. And a couple years after hiking on this path, they had come in, the Forest Service had put up a sign, said, please don't go this way. We're trying to train go this other way. And it was sort of annoying. It was difficult because I was like, oh, I've got these little kids and there's the path on the other side of the sign and it's so easy. And this new path was kind of rough, but I try to be a good citizen, so I take my kids that other way. A few years after that, it's hard to find that old path anymore. The sign has been taken down, it's grown over, and the new path is the easy way to go. And neural pathways, which are our patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving, are a lot like that. And strong emotions, strong experiences, adrenaline, intoxication, these sorts of things can really quickly build pathways that are negative and take us to negative places. And so I love that analogy because you're absolutely right. I know when I'm on my motorcycle, it's a freeing, wonderful, there's nothing like, actually I got excited when you said pulling the throttle on your motorcycle because you're just so in the moment. It's a very mindful experience, and mindfulness, being fully focused in the moment, is a wonderful way to start rebuilding new neural pathways. And so people who have had many, many years of learning to deal with their stress, anxiety, depression with going to a substance and letting that take over, that's the neural pathway. That's the tendency. Yeah. And so I love this concept of using something else that's also very powerful, also very mindful, pulling you into the moment. But now you're building a healthy pathway. It's like cutting that new path in the forest.
But that's not the only thing your program offers.
No, that's not the only thing the program offers. So it's a free program. We are a 501c3 nonprofit Utah state entity. And what we do, it's a 3-day program where you only eat a plant-based diet designed by Dr. Nicole Priest.
Your wife.
The most incredible meal plan, which is going to be a detox to anything you're doing with alcohol. It's an instructional on 3 or 4 pieces of mechanical equipment, like I mentioned, jet skis, this, that, the other. It's not all out. You don't have to have any. You don't have to have any riding skills. It's a instructional, small demonstration purpose or test drive experience of multiple different pieces of equipment. We do a hot springs hike and soak, and we do one arch hike in Moab, and then lastly, we do a rock climb and a rappel, a really, it's a pretty mellow climb with a really neat rappel. We do a lot of self-inquiry worksheets. We attend at least 1 or 2 AA meetings in Moab while we're down there. So there's it's a sun up to sundown program. It's 3 days long. It was inspired or kind of came to me. I was reading a book called The 3-Day Effect, and it talks about how after 3 days, you forget your old habits. You forget your old things that you don't want to be doing.
Vices.
You're able to create new pathways, new habits, new things. And so you walk out of my program learning a ton of new skills, ton of self-inquiry worksheets with some really good talk therapy on how to work through those things, some incredible meal planning and diet strategies on how to go home. And hopefully I'm either your AA sponsor or you go join another AA group and you get an AA sponsor. That's my hope or goal at the end of this whole thing. And you're off on the road to recovery. My goal is I want to reset your compass. If you're in an airplane and you change your compass even 1 degree, before you know it, you will be going a totally different direction. I'm not going to change everything about you in 3 days. I'm going to reset your compass. If only 1 degree, I've had an incredible, successful trip with you.
Speaking of success, I believe you've taken about 14 people on this adventure thus far.
Yeah, we've been in business less than a year now, and I have successfully put 14 people through the program. It's really cool. Quite a few of the people that have gone through it had previously relapsed and tried several different recovery techniques. And to this day, which I stay in touch with them all, to this day they're all sober. It's working for all of them. I talk regularly to them. They all know that there's the potential or the hope to come to work for our company. That is how I want to build this company. I want to have apprentices, and I want to have people that want to come get a job with us, learning what it takes
to give back,
to work in recovery and give back. I want to build a company that ultimately one day all the board of directors, all the officers, all the employees, everybody have gone through our program, are successfully in recovery, and can talk the talk and go help me run this company.
Now, you say it's free, so I assume that you have sponsors or you need money. How does that work? I don't even know. I know a lot of people who come through here have a 501(c)(3), and I don't even know what that stands for, but I'm sure it's something.
The not-for-profit model.
Yeah, it's you're a corporation just like any corporation, but you file this exemption with the IRS. What that allows is anyone that gives you any money, $50, $100, $5,000, it doesn't matter. It's completely tax deductible. So I am, of course, hoping that all your listeners will go on our website and even click the $1 button. We got a $1 donate button. We got a recurring $1 button. You can give a $1 every month, $1 every year. I hope people will click the $500 button. But yeah, that is all tax deductible. You make a donation to our company, it comes immediately right off your adjusted gross income on your taxes.
Do you spend so that's automatic? So for somebody who's donating.
As soon as we receive your contribution, a letter goes out to you. It's automatically triggered with our federal ID number, and then you just take that to your tax preparer and deduct it off your taxes.
All right, that sounds all great, but how do I get to do this for free?
Well, you're number 15.
Yeah.
I mean, you are absolutely...
Well, I think Josh, the producer, wants to go, and even Dr. Matt would like to go.
I was just looking for an inroad to ask.
Yeah. So I think we should go on this. What
I would love to do is bring Josh, and we do some live videos and podcasts. I think this is such a cool model. There are a few similar, but nothing quite like this that I can think of. I'm thinking in, a couple other things for people in recovery out there, but this sounds like something. What I love about this is what we talked about a minute ago with the adrenaline piece and the mindfulness piece, but you're really doing detox through learning to eat a healthier diet and giving people those 3 days. I often call it the vector effect, where you're saying, you move 1 degree, and if you just stay on that path, if people were to leave this program, stay on that path, they're going good places. So I think it would be fun to go and then be able to demonstrate to the listeners what this program's about.
And if listeners are listening to this right now and want to find out more, I'm sure they can go to your website, which is adventuresanonymous.org, or they can give you a shout on the email at burke@adventureanonymous.org.
That is correct. Absolutely.
And that sounds amazing, and I think that's way cool, and I think it's a wonderful thing that you're giving back. And as your track record suggests with all your past businesses, I think this is
going to be a success.
Yeah.
It sounds like it already is.
But like you said, Casey, I mean, we're in the early stages of business. We've only had 14 clients out. Actually, my wife and I are working a lot on our own money. We have had some family members do some initial donating, which has gotten us to this point, gotten us the equipment, and, got a lot of legal and advertising and formed the company and insurances, you name it. The expenses are very, very heavy in the startup phase. But I am hoping again that some listeners might be able to connect me with some of the large philanthropic donors in this town, people that have had alcohol has touched their families or their lives, and I sure would like to meet one-on-one with those types of individuals, offer a free tour for a family member to come out and so please.
Experience it.
Yeah.
And so with the ages are 18 and above?
No, it's 21 and above.
Okay.
Yeah, we do from kind of insurance standpoints and legal standpoint, we don't condone any drinking under 18.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that they
My
do.
bad.
I'm sorry that they do. You do need to, there's a couple of prerequisites. There's an application on our website, adventuresanonymous.org. You'll need to fill that out. We do need to see that you've made some advancements on your own to start to get sober, whether through a program, a doctor, uni, something. We're not just going to take someone right off the street day one, but as soon as you've made the decision to get sober, we're here to help you and support you 110%.
So maybe a person who's gone to a formal detox, like at uni, and they're looking for a great follow-up to keep going. Because I know that for some people, they'll leave a detox and then they don't quite know where to go, what to do. This would be an option?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So those are the people we want to get in the door first. Our second round of people are paying customers, and what I'm trying to build is a long-term sustainable business with repeat customers that bring their son or daughter, that bring their wife, and now they get to show and rebuild trust with their son or daughter or wife. I can ride this UTV. Watch, honey. I know I promised you, son, that I'd take you jet skiing for 20 years, but I'm sorry, I was too busy drinking. Now I am in a safe, controlled environment where we're helping. So we do have a pay model. You have to have gone through our program first as an individual. Then you can come back year after year after year, month after month. As many times as you want to recreate with us, we're here for you.
And that would be because, as we've learned on this show, so many families suffer when one person in the family.
It's a family disease.
It's a family disease. And so this would be a way of then kind of repairing family relationships.
That is 100% of the goal, Dr. Matt. I gave up every motorcycle, I gave up everything I loved. I didn't want to do anything when I became depressed and when my world went upside down. And you know what? My friends are like, well, when are you going to ride a dirt bike again? I don't want to. I want nothing to do with it. We're going to get people back in to the sports they've always loved, the sports they've always wanted to try.
Yeah.
Anything new to start that neuropathway, new channel approach. And we're going to teach you, and we're going to keep you coming back time after time after time. And
I'm super stoked. This sounds like a wonderful program. Once again, that's adventuresanonymous.org. Go check it out. We're going to have Burke back on. We might even have his beautiful wife on to talk about
I'd love to have her come talk about nutrition and mental health and how that would affect, people who are thinking of getting sober or are in recovery.
And Dr. Matt and Josh, we'll go out and we'll take this adventure.
I want to ask one more question.
Sure.
For Burke.
This is your
Something's
show,
been
too.
on my mind. So the program sounds amazing, and I think the potential is tremendous. But for you personally, going back to a few things you've said today, you first mentioned the word identity when you said, I kind of lost my identity when I sold that first motorcycle business back in 2007. And then later you said you were doing a lot of this kind of manic sort of stuff out of ego and just trying to build and show your wife you can do this and that and the other. My sense of working with a lot of folks when they are capable of a lot of great things, but they have this. You said the wheels kept coming off. You use the duck analogy. Underneath the water, things were not well. And to me, that often traces way back even to childhood in this sense of a lack of real identity. That's the term that we use in psychology, a sense of self, or in the old-fashioned terms, your ego, who you really are. People who are really grounded in who they are, have a strong sense of self or identity, tend to be able to weather the storms of life better, and they make better friends and partners and whatnot. And I kind of got the sense that through all of this, despite this tremendous ability you have to meet and talk to people, to start businesses, to go anywhere and be anything, that you didn't really have a strong sense of identity. And I wonder if you'd agree with that. And then how has... If you feel more grounded in your sense of who you are today, like how has sobriety gotten you there, and how has this model that you're working on, is that part of it? I guess I want to talk about that transition.
Oh, you are spot on. You are spot on. And, it's so interesting thinking back on that. Conversations when you're drinking are nothing more than recycled conversations that every drunk has. If you really think about it, you can actually just substitute names of any bar conversation. There's no meaning. When you're drinking, you're drunk, you don't have the capability to go deep. You don't have the capability to connect. Very superficial.
Selfish.
So my identity has come in my involvement in recovery, my determination to recover and help others. And it's been the greatest gift I've actually ever had. I wouldn't trade it for anything on planet Earth. I wouldn't trade the deepest, darkest times for anything. I know a lot of people that were around me would beg to differ, that they had to go through that. And I have made endless amends to people in that regard, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I now have an identity. My identity is to help people get sober, and I love it.
Yeah, I get the sense as you're talking about this, you feel well grounded in who you are and what you're about now. But I also got the sense, despite all the flash and excitement of your previous life, that it felt hollow and sort of shallow and meaningless.
Just a terrible place to be. Yeah, it all looks good on paper and in pictures.
And so I appreciate you. Thank you. I know that's pretty personal, but I wanted you to talk about that for our listeners, because many people are still drinking today, listening to this podcast, using drugs. It's to cover up or try to fill that lack of self, that void that you have. Sometimes we use the analogy of like a bucket with holes in the bottom, and that sense of who I am never really fills up. And I think your story is a wonderful example of how you can really develop a true sense of self, a real identity that's meaningful to you, and therefore use your talents, whatever they may be, to bless the lives of other people. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and one last thing I just want to say is, what is the definition of an alcoholic? How do you know if you're an alcoholic? I mean, we used to joke and say, well, it's someone that drinks more than me. But you know what an alcoholic is? It's anyone that drinks, anyone that's not living a fulfilled life, anyone that's not living the best version of themselves. One drink a day will prohibit you from living the best you in so many ways. I can't be a judge, and I'm not judging anyone, but I am saying you do have to get in your car. You do have to go to the liquor store. You do have to pull money out of your wallet. Is that the best version of you? Someone that is dependent on a drive to a liquor store and a line and a missing $20 or $30 or $50 bill out of your wallet every couple, 3 or 4 days? You're not living the best version of you. If you're like me and you're driving down the road right now with a beer between your legs like I used to, I swear to you, I promise you, no matter how far down you've gone, there is a way to get back. I am telling you, there is a way to get back.
I love that. That
From
is
your lips to his ears.
Wonderful insight.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for stopping by and sharing your story with us today. You're listening to Project Recovery, brought to you by useonlyasdirected.org with their 3-part solution: speak out, throw out, and opt out. I know I did that in the wrong order, but it's all there.
You just get them out.
Yeah. You're listening to Project Recovery, brought to you by useonlyasdirected.org with their 3-part solution: speak out, opt out, and throw out. Project Recovery is a KSL podcast.
The contents of this program are for informational purposes only. The program is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this program. KSL does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the program. Reliance on any information provided on the program is solely at your own risk.